All right, so get ready. We're going deep into a world of angels and giants and divine justice.
Sounds intense.
It is. We're taking a deep dive into the Book of Enoch, specifically chapter 10.
Okay, chapter 10, got it.
Now, if you're familiar with the Book of Enoch, you know it's not your typical biblical text.
Yeah, it's definitely outside the traditional canon.
But it's filled with these incredible stories that have captivated people for centuries.
Oh, absolutely. And chapter 10, it's really where the action heats up.
Yeah, you could say that this is where we see the consequences of the Watchers' rebellion really hitting home.
The Watchers, right? Those fallen angels who decided to, well, meddle in human affairs.
And let's not forget their offspring, the Nephilim, those giant beings that caused all sorts of chaos.
Oh, yeah. The Nephilim, they definitely didn't make things easy for humanity.
No, they did not. And by this point, things have gotten so bad that even the faithful angels are like, okay, we need some divine intervention here.
Right, they're basically pleading with the Creator to step in and set things right.
And that's exactly what happens in chapter 10. But what's really fascinating is that it's not just some kind of random vengeful response.
I was just thinking that. It's not just a cosmic temper tantrum.
Right, exactly. The text really emphasizes how meticulously planned this whole intervention is.
It's like a carefully orchestrated operation with each step designed to restore order and balance.
Exactly, and that's where these four archangels come in: Michael, Gabriel, Raphael, and Uriel.
Okay, the A-team of angels.
Yeah, you could say that each one has a very specific, crucial role to play.
So let's break it down. Who gets assigned what?
Well, first up, we have Michael, who is tasked with dealing with the ringleaders of this whole rebellion.
Makes sense. Go straight to the source.
Right, and we're talking about Samjaza and Azazel, two prominent watchers who are basically leading the charge in corrupting humanity.
Those are some heavy hitters.
They are, and Michael's mission is to confront them, imprison them, and hold them accountable.
So they're taken out of the picture, but what about their punishment?
Oh, it's definitely not a slap on the wrist, especially for Azazel.
What happens to him?
He gets cast into this desolate place filled with sharp stones. Talk about a rough landing.
Ouch, that's gotta hurt, but I'm curious about the symbolism there, those sharp stones.
Right. It's not just a random punishment. It almost feels like it's designed to reflect the nature of his transgression.
Like a poetic justice kind of thing?
Yeah, exactly. Maybe those sharp stones represent the fragmented state of his soul. A reminder that betraying divine trust leads to inner turmoil and isolation.
Wow, that's pretty deep. It definitely adds another dimension to the whole concept of divine retribution.
It does. It's not just physical suffering. There's this deeper, almost psychological element to it.
Okay, so Michael's dealing with the rebel leaders. Who's next on the list?
Well, next up we have Gabriel, and his assignment is even more action-packed, let's just say.
Action-packed. Okay, I'm intrigued. What's he up to?
He's basically tasked with dealing with the Nephilim problem.
Oh boy, those giants. How do you even begin to handle that?
Well, the solution isn't exactly peaceful. Gabriel is commanded to turn them against each other.
So it's a giant-on-giant brawl.
Yeah. Essentially, the text describes it as this chaotic, violent spectacle, like mountains trembling, rivers running red with blood. Pretty intense.
Wow, it sounds like something straight out of a mythical disaster movie.
Right, exactly. It's apocalyptic in its imagery. And what's really interesting is that this whole scene could be interpreted as a metaphor.
A metaphor, okay, for what?
Well, maybe it's about the self-destructive nature of unchecked power and ambition, how those things can ultimately lead to chaos and downfall.
That's a pretty timeless message, even if we don't have actual giants running around causing trouble these days.
Right, exactly. It makes you wonder if there are echoes of this kind of self-destruction in our own world today. You know, in the way we sometimes wield power or pursue our ambitions.
That's a thought-provoking question for sure. So we've got Michael dealing with the fallen angel leaders, Gabriel orchestrating this epic battle amongst the giants. What about Raphael?
Raphael. His role is a bit different. You could say it's gentler, but no less crucial.
Okay, so what's his mission?
He's tasked with healing the earth, repairing all the damage caused by both the Watchers and the Nephilim.
So it's like a massive cleanup and restoration project.
Exactly. It's about restoring balance to creation after all this chaos.
So it's not just about punishment and retribution, it's about making things right again.
Right. It's about acknowledging the wrong that's been done, but also focusing on healing and renewal.
It's like hitting the reset button on creation, but with like a more conscious, intentional approach.
Exactly. It's not just going back to the way things were. It's about learning from the past and building something better, something more aligned with the Creator's original vision.
That's a powerful idea, this concept of renewal going beyond just a simple reset.
It is, and it makes you think about how, in our own lives, we often focus on dealing with the immediate consequences of mistakes or wrongdoing. But we sometimes neglect the process of healing and rebuilding, both within ourselves and in our relationships with others.
It's an important parallel to consider. True justice, whether it's divine or human, it requires a commitment to healing and restoration.
Absolutely. It's about accountability, yes, but also about compassion and the possibility of a fresh start.
So we've got Michael taking care of the rebel leaders, Gabriel dealing with the Nephilim, and Raphael focused on healing the earth. What about the last archangel, Uriel?
Yes, Uriel. Well, his role might be the most mysterious of all, and we'll delve into that next time when we continue our deep dive into chapter 10 of the Book of Enoch.
Okay, so we've got a cliffhanger. I'm definitely curious to hear more about Uriel's role in all of this.
You, me both, so stay tuned for part 2 of our deep dive. Welcome back to our deep dive into the Book of Enoch. We're picking up right where we left off in chapter 10.
Okay, chapter 10.
Now, we've talked about those 4 archangels, Michael, Gabriel, and Raphael, and they're pretty intense assignments, dealing with the fallen angels and the Nephilim and healing the earth.
Big task.
But before we jump into the whole new beginning that the Creator promises, I'm really curious about those faithful angels, the ones who are so concerned about humanity's fate.
Oh yeah, those angels. What happens to them after all this goes down?
Right, because they were pretty vocal. Before the Creator intervened, they were really advocating for humanity.
They were definitely passionate about protecting humans.
So wouldn't they want to be involved in, helping to rebuild and restore things after all the chaos?
Well, it's interesting you say that because while the Book of Enoch doesn't explicitly lay out their actions after the judgment, their very nature as angelic beings suggests they wouldn't just sit on the sidelines.
Right. They're often depicted as messengers, guides, protectors. They're not passive observers.
Exactly. They're active forces for good.
So maybe they act as intermediaries between the Creator and humanity, helping to convey messages of hope and guidance during this, pretty tumultuous time.
Imagine the scene. Humanity's just witnessed these earth-shattering events. Their world's been turned upside down. And who better to offer comfort and reassurance than these beings who remained faithful to the Creator and never lost hope?
It's almost like they become the first responders of the spiritual world, tending to the wounds left behind by all the chaos.
That's a powerful image. It highlights the importance of not just rebuilding societies after a crisis, but also rebuilding the spirit.
Right, addressing the trauma, the despair, helping people to find their footing again.
And these faithful angels, with their unwavering belief in the Creator's goodness, they could be instrumental in that process of spiritual healing.
It reminds me of how, even today, you see communities coming together after a disaster, offering support, sharing resources, just being there for each other.
It's a beautiful parallel, a reminder that we're not meant to face these challenges alone, whether it's divine beings or our fellow humans. Having that support system is essential.
Absolutely. It's about solidarity, compassion, recognizing our shared humanity, especially in the face of hardship.
Okay, so those faithful angels might be offering comfort and guidance, but I'm also wondering if they play a role in helping humanity understand the deeper meaning behind all of this.
Right, because let's be honest, it was a pretty intense intervention. There was a lot of destruction involved.
It wasn't subtle.
Not at all.
Yeah.
And imagine being a human witnessing all of this. The fear, the confusion, the potential for resentment. These angels could help people make sense of it all.
They could help them see that the judgment wasn't about revenge, but about purification and renewal.
Right. It's about shifting perspectives, helping people see beyond the immediate pain and chaos to recognize the potential for growth and transformation.
It's not just about surviving the storm, but about finding meaning in the aftermath, using that experience to build something new and better.
This makes me think about how, even today, we try to find meaning in difficult times. We look for lessons, for silver linings, for some glimmer of hope.
It's a very human thing to do, to try and make sense of hardship, to find purpose in our struggles.
And maybe these faithful angels represent that inherent human desire, that longing for understanding and hope.
Okay, so we've talked about those faithful angels and their potential role in guiding and comforting humanity, but let's shift our focus to the Creator's promise of a new beginning.
Right, because that's a pretty big promise. What does that actually look like in this context?
Well, it's not about simply erasing the past, hitting a cosmic reset button. It's about creating something better, something more aligned with the creator's original vision.
So it's not a return to the status quo, but a genuine transformation, a step forward.
Exactly. But what are the signs of this new beginning? What does a world purged of the Watcher's corruption actually look like?
Right. We need some specifics.
Well, think back to the imagery used throughout the chapter. The emphasis on cleansing, on balance being restored. The text talks about the earth being blessed, justice prevailing, harmony returning.
So it's a world where the negative consequences of the Watcher's influence have been eradicated.
But it's more than just physical restoration. It's about a spiritual and moral renewal as well.
So people are living in greater harmony with each other and with nature, guided by righteousness and wisdom.
Precisely. It's about aligning human actions with divine principles, creating a society where justice and compassion are the guiding forces. And this isn't passive. It requires effort, active participation.
Right. Humans aren't just sitting back and waiting for things to get better. They're actively involved in building this new world.
Exactly. And that responsibility extends beyond individual actions to how we structure our societies, our systems of governance, our relationship with the natural world.
It's about recognizing that we have a role to play in creating a world that reflects the Creator's will.
It's a lofty goal, but it's what makes this chapter so inspiring. It offers not just a vision of divine intervention, but a glimpse into a future where humanity, having learned from its mistakes, takes ownership of its destiny.
It's a powerful reminder that we're not just pawns in some cosmic game. We have the potential to shape our own future.
The question is, what will we choose to build? What kind of world will we leave for future generations?
Those are big questions, and ones that resonate deeply with our own world today. As we grapple with climate change, social injustice, political turmoil, it's easy to feel overwhelmed.
Absolutely. It can feel like we're facing insurmountable challenges.
But maybe this chapter is inviting us to tap into that same spirit of hope and resilience that the faithful angels embody.
It's a call to action, a reminder that even amidst the chaos and uncertainty, we each have a role to play in creating a more just and compassionate world.
So, while the story of chapter 10 might seem like an ancient myth, it actually offers us a timeless blueprint for creating a better future.
It's a story about consequences, yes, but also about redemption, about the power of collective action, about the possibility of a new beginning.
But before we get too carried away with envisioning this utopian future, we need to address the fate of those fallen angels who were imprisoned. What happens to them? Are they beyond redemption?
That's a great point. We've been focusing on the positive, but we can't ignore the reality of justice and consequences.
So what does the Book of Enoch have to say about the ultimate fate of those rebel angels?
Well, that's a question that takes us into some fascinating and maybe a bit unsettling territory.
Okay, I'm intrigued. Lay it on me.
We're going to explore the complexities of divine justice and the possibility of redemption, even for those who have fallen from grace. But let's save that for the next part of our deep dive. We'll delve into the darker side of this ancient tale.
Okay, consider me hooked. We'll be back soon with the final part of our deep dive into chapter 10 of the Book of Enoch. Welcome back to our deep dive into the Book of Enoch. We've talked about the Creator's plan for restoring balance, the faithful angels offering guidance, that vision of a renewed world, but we kind of left off on a bit of a cliffhanger.
Yeah, those imprisoned watchers, what happens to them?
Right. Are they just doomed, or is there a chance for redemption even for them?
It's a big question, gets right to the heart of divine justice.
And it feels kind of different from all that hopeful stuff we were talking about before.
It does. There's definitely a darker side to this story.
So what does it say? What happens to those fallen angels?
Well, the text is pretty clear that prison isn't the end of it. They're awaiting final judgment, and it doesn't sound pleasant. Fire, torment, eternal darkness, that kind of thing.
Yikes. Okay, so not a happy ending for them then.
It's not, and I think that contrast is intentional. It's not just about forgiveness and second chances.
So it's about accountability too.
Exactly. There are consequences for choosing darkness over light.
It's interesting how this chapter balances those two ideas. The severity of judgment, but also the hope for a new beginning.
Yeah, and it's something we wrestle with even today. How do you balance justice with mercy? Where's the line between punishment and rehabilitation?
Tough questions. No easy answers.
Maybe there aren't any easy answers. Maybe it depends on the situation, the individual, weighing the transgression against the potential for change.
So it's not like those fallen angels are totally cut off from redemption. It's not explicitly stated.
There's room for interpretation. Some people might see their fate as sealed.
Because of the rebellion.
Right. But others might see a sliver of hope. Maybe that imprisonment is a chance for reflection, even repentance.
That's an interesting thought. So even after falling so far, there might still be a spark of the divine in them.
It's possible. Maybe it speaks to how boundless the Creator's mercy is.
It makes me wonder about those faithful angels, the ones who are pleading for humanity. Do they have any role to play in this? Like, do they advocate for mercy for those imprisoned watchers?
That's a good question, and unfortunately, the text doesn't really give us an answer.
Okay, so we're left to speculate.
We are, but it's worth thinking about. It could show how deeply compassionate those angels are. Maybe they see potential even in those who have fallen.
It adds another layer to what it means to be faithful. It's not just about following orders, but understanding mercy and forgiveness.
And remember how we talked about those angels acting as guides for humanity? Maybe their role is even bigger than that. Maybe they offer hope to anyone who's lost their way.
Okay, so we've covered a lot in this deep dive into chapter 10, divine intervention, consequences, renewal, the whole idea of justice and redemption.
We've talked about the archangels, the fallen angels, humanity's potential, and the possibility of hope, even in the darkest of times.
It's been quite a journey, and as with any good deep dive, we probably have more questions now than when we started.
That's the beauty of a text like this. It challenges you, makes you think, and those insights, they resonate across time.
Absolutely. So we'll leave you with this. What stood out to you the most from chapter 10? What will you take away from this exploration?
We'll be back soon with another deep dive into the Book of Enoch. But until then, keep seeking, keep questioning, keep believing in the power of good.
And keep exploring those ancient mysteries. Thanks for joining us.